Shana Tova. It is so good to see you tonight. You know, when we think of Jewish history in San Francisco, most of us, we think back to the gold rush in 1850 when Emanu-El was founded. But I think we can learn a lot more from our ancestors when you look at the Emanu-El members of 1906, when the city was burnt nearly to the ground from what is considered, to this day, still one of the most significant earthquakes of all time. Now, many people in 1906, they packed up their bags and they left and they abandoned San Francisco, but not the Emanu-El community. We dug our feet in and our shovels, and then we rebuilt this city like we had never done before. And then it was just 12 years later from that earthquake and that fire and that destruction of our building that the 1918 pandemic swept through our city. And then once again, darkness, it shrouded us. But at that point, we knew who we were. We knew how to respond to such a moment. So there was only one option. It wasn't to reminisce about the past or to sulk about the present, but to dig their shovels in and to build a future so that as the pandemic ended, they had a capital campaign to build this home for us. And it was 96 years ago tonight that they celebrated their very first Rosh Hashanah in this room. And here we are, the Emanu-El members of 2022, coming out of our own pandemic, out of our own downtown, feeling like a ghost town. A flight of people from the city, but not from Emanu-El. Somehow, we responded in the same way that every single generation has that came before us. The past 2 years have been dark. It's been lonely in our city. And the way we reacted was not picking up and moving or wallowing, but rather this community dug in and we had our own capital campaign so that we could be the last group that would be on this campus where it looks just like this for this Rosh Hashanah. Next Rosh Hashanah will still be in this room, but our campus will be in the midst of a transformation. Because in June of next year, just a few months from now, we will too dig our shovels into the earth, and we will begin building for the future generations that are relying on us. So that in 2025, we'll be embracing in our new courtyard with the ongoing work of building mensches for the next century. It's a holiday season of hope. It's a holiday season of celebration. It's a holiday season of renewal. Please rise. Please be seated. We're on page 6.
As we begin our service this evening, we're going to take a moment to think of the ongoing war in Ukraine and to send all of our love and support towards this war-torn community across the globe. We know that many of us sitting here, myself included, have relatives who come from the former Soviet Union or may still have relatives in that region, and we want to recognize this community this evening. To help send our light that direction, we are going to invite two members of that community, Edward Gavalarchuk and Alexei Edward, to come join us in candle lighting on page 11. And if anyone else is from that region, please come and join us on the bima to light the candles, if you feel comfortable. As we begin to feel comfortable in our seats, maybe we haven't been here in several years, maybe this is your first time joining with us. We begin being enveloped in the melodies of the high holidays as we just did with the candle lighting. We are not just here to feel connected to our community, but we are also here to mark and to celebrate the beginning of a new year, of 5783. Perhaps 5782 wasn't what any of us had imagined, with ongoing war and pandemic that we did not think would still be the case as we stand here and sit here this evening. But we have renewed hope for 5783 and all that it represents. We were not able to gather like this time last year, and that unto itself is something worth celebrating. We begin our formal service on page 15. Please rise.
We're on page 17. Here I am, so poor in deeds, I tremble in fear, overwhelmed and apprehensive before you, to whom Israel sings praise. Although unworthy, I rise to pray and to seek favor for your people Israel, for they have entrusted me with this task.
Therefore, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, God of Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, Adonai, Adonai, merciful, gracious God, who inspires awe, I pray to you for success on my path. I pray for myself and for my community. Do not hold them responsible for my wrongs and offenses. May my deeds cause them no shame, and may their deeds cause me no shame.
Accept my prayer as though it were offered by one worthy of this task, a scholar proficient in prayer, unblemished in character, pleasing in voice.
Let love be our banner. Let it banish our wrongs. May Israel's strife and misfortunes be turned into joy, renewed life and peace. Love, peace, and truth, may they prevail among us, and may there be no impediment to my prayer.
Adonai, God of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, God of Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, great, mighty, awe-inspiring God Most High, who said to Moses, I will be what I will be. May it be your will that my prayer reach your presence. For the sake of the righteous and blameless, the honest and pure of heart, for the sake of your glory, you hear your people's prayer with compassion. Blessed are you, the one who hears prayer.
יושב תהילות ישראל, תהילות ישראל.
תהילות, תהילות, תהילות ישראל, תהילות. B'mifat Yosher, Tehilot Yisrael.
Batil amol l'chanein lefanecha, halamecha Yisrael. Halamecha Yisrael. Shenera sheshlachuni V'yaf al pi shenichadai v'yagun lechach al kein אבקש ממך, אבקש ממך, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק, ואלוהי יעקב. אשר אני הולך לעמוד לבקש רחמים עלי ועל ועל שולחן
Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, v'hi ratzon sheniskeh v'ivrotecha bishnat chameshet alafim shiva me'ot shmonim v'shalosh. Please join me in the prayer for 5783 in English on the middle of page 19. Our God and God of our ancestors, may we know your blessings in the year 5783. Eternal One, bless us and the whole house of Israel with renewed life, happiness and peace, comfort and courage, resilience and strength. May the words of our heart be acceptable to you in the new year that stretches before us. We are forever grateful for the gift of life.
Please be seated. Please join me on page 23. The quickening of the moon calls us to return, and we gather, seem dwellers on the edge of the earth. As the sun lowers itself into the sea, introspection rises. A sliver cracks the heart of the firmament, the vast blackness an invitation to right ourselves anew.
Baruch atah Adonai.
Baruch hu, Baruch Shemo.
Amari v'Ravim.
Amen.
So the first thing I want you to do is turn your page to page 26 and put your finger there. And once you get your finger there, you can close the book. There's a tradition that says when you do the Shema, because we're eventually going to get to the Shema, you're supposed to stay in any position that you're in. So if you're sitting, everyone's invited to stay seated as we move into the Shema. Because tonight I want us to meditate on 4 words. And I want us all to know these 4 words because it kind of encompasses the work that we're trying to do over these next 24 hours. The first word is ahava, which is love. Rabbi Sachs wrote, Judaism is about love, which can seem ironic because much of Genesis, surprisingly, is about the problems that love creates. The verb to love, it occurs 15 times in Genesis, and it's always between humans and almost always as a prelude to strife. Now, this is important in an unexpected insight. Love, real, passionate, the very love that humanizes us, leading us to great acts of self-sacrifice, unites and divides as it unites. It creates rivalries for attention and affection, and without such love, an essential element of our humanity is missing. But it creates problems that can split families apart, can lead to estrangement and to violence. When we think of the pain that we have felt, the pain that we've created, it's almost always with those closest to us. Because only a love so deep can cause a pain so deep. But as Sachs says, all strife in Genesis is preceded by love. Now tonight, when we read the word ahava, it's a reminder to widen our lens and to remember where our relationships began. What happened the hour, the day, the week before the strain? It was a place of love. And tonight is about meditating on that word and reminding ourselves the root of those relationships. Our second word, chesed, kindness. Rabbi Sachs wrote that chesed, kindness, is intrinsically personal. We cannot care for the sick, bring comfort to the distressed, or welcome a visitor impersonally. We act with kindness because we know what it feels like to be in need of kindness. We comfort the mourners because we know what it is to mourn. Tonight is not about living in a purely detached, rational space. It's not why we're here. Tonight is about vulnerability. Tonight's about emotion, about opening up your heart to feel how you have been treated with kindness and how you have been kind, how you have hurt, and also how you have been hurt. Chesed is kindness. It's not joy, it's not happiness, but it's how we care for the other as we would ourselves, with gentle and real care. Now, the third word is rachamim, which is compassion or forgiveness. Now, not accidentally, the Hebrew word rachamim, it comes from the word rechem, which means womb. Rabbi Sachs writes that a judge who is charged with administering the law cannot forgive, but a parent can. The concept of forgiveness, it comes into existence when God is envisioned as both the judge and the parent. When law and love, justice and mercy, they join hands. God forgives, and in so doing, teaches us to forgive. And honestly, that's what most of us have a challenge with. We hold grudges, even when the person has apologized, and especially when they haven't. These grudges, they last days, they last weeks, years, sometimes even an entire lifetime. How do we actually let go of our pain and move back to a place of compassion? Now, I'm not suggesting that it's easy, or even that it's always possible. Quite often, we're stuck through no fault of our own. But I do suggest that within any conflict stands a pathway of rachamim, of compassion. Tonight, as we are opening the gates of the new year, we also place ourselves in that pathway of rachamim. And if we are able to remember the ahava, the love, and the chesed, the kindness, and allow the rachamim, the compassion, to well up, it's then when we just may, reach our ultimate goal in all of Judaism, which is shalom. And shalom, it's not just peace, but it comes from the word shalem, wholeness.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
We continue with the Via Hafta, page 28.
We have a lot of students here that have studied with me in the past, and it would be such a privilege and an honor for me if you studied with me or even had me in Sunday school, even if you weren't that person. I would love for you to lead us in the Via Hafta. Chad, Shtayim, Shalosh. Via Hafta.
If you'll join me on page 33. You have stayed long enough in this place, God said. Time to go forward. Turn your face to the future. Believe that you can cross the sea and survive. Inside you is a Moses. Within you, Miriam dances, unafraid. Lift up your voice and sing a new song.
חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך הוא, ברוך שמו,
גל ישראל.
'Amen. 'Amen.
17th century Italy, there existed a well-known and respected court composer named Salomone de' Rossi. Rossi was very similar in musical style to the other court composers of his day, but his identity as a Jew set him apart. To be a Jewish court composer amongst Italian nobility was highly unusual and seemingly an exception to societal norms of the time. In the year 1623, Rossi completed what would later be recognized as a deeply innovative side project by publishing a collection of original Jewish music compositions. Jewish music had never before been published in our history and would not be published again for another 250 years or so. Like the great Reformed Jewish composers that he preceded, Rossi composed his Jewish music according to the contemporary musical tastes of his day. While this practice was and still may be considered radical to Jewish music traditionalists, it is a reminder of the Reform Jewish tradition of striving to remain relevant to the very notion of both Jewish peoplehood and the world in which the Jewish people find themselves. Tonight, on page 36, through Rossi's musical setting, we pray the words of Hashkivenu, an evening prayer, asking God to watch over us, to shelter us in peace.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Ve'hamidenu Gakenu Shalom Me'aldrenu Me'takanenu Ser me aleinu ore devere kedeva ave agova anacha ushvosada milei Shadrigenu redienu Sime Alam Marata Suka Suka Lenu Abu Shalom Aleinu All Israel
Who is the one who desires life and loves days to see good in them? Guard your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deception. Turn away from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it.
Echafetz chayim, ohev yamim, lirot tov, mihayim, echafetz chayim.
I'm on page 42. The words of our prayer must not fall off our lips like dead leaves in the autumn. They must rise like birds out of the heart into the vast expanse of eternity. Please rise.
Ooh. אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים, מלך חוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך שמו,
מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל, אתה רב להושיע, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נוחים ורופא חולים, ומעטיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו בשני עפר.
נחמוך על רוח וגיבור ונשם, מלך דוד ומלך ומבטיח ישועה.
מי כמוך זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך הוא ברוך שמו,
מחיי הכל.
You are holy, your name is holy. Seekers of holiness, praise you day by day. Selah. Please be seated. We are on page 49.
על כל מעשיך ומתך על כל מה שבראת ויראוך כל המעשים וישתחוו לפניך כל הברואים ויעשו כולם אגודה אחת לעשות רצונך בלבב ושלם כמו שידענו אדוני אלוהינו שבשלטון לפניך עוז בידך וגבורה במינך ושמחה נורא לכל מה שבראת
And so, in your holiness, give all creation the gift of awe. Turn our fear to reverence. Let us be witnesses of wonder, perceiving all nature as a prayer come alive. We bow to the sovereignty of your strength, the primacy of your power. We yearn for connection with all that lives, doing your will with wholeness of heart. Awe-inspiring is your creation, all-encompassing your transcendent name.
And so, in your holiness, give your people the gift of honor. Bless with praise those who praise you. Bless with hope those who seek you. Give your believers a basis for faith, true happiness for the land of Israel, true joy in Jerusalem. May the sparks of David, your servant, soon grow bright enough for us to see, a beam of light in the darkness, a promise of perfection.
And so, in your holiness, give the righteous the gift of a vision bright with joy, a world where evil has no voice, and the rule of malevolence fades like wisps of smoke. Good people everywhere will celebrate the stunning sight of arrogance gone from the earth.
Please rise and join me on page 54 in English. In your love, eternal our God, you have given us this day of remembrance, a day for the shofar's joyful sound, a day of sacred assembly, a day to be mindful of our people's going out from Egypt. Our God and God of the generations before us, may a memory of us ascend and come before you. May it be heard and seen by you, winning your favor and reaching your awareness, together with the memory of our ancestors, the memory of your sacred city, Jerusalem, and the memory of your people, the family of Israel. May we be remembered for safety, well-being, and favor, for love and compassion, for life, and for peace on this day of remembrance.
ופקדנו בו לברכה, והושיענו לבוא לחיים.
Eternal our God, remember us.
Amen.
Be mindful of us
Amen.
and redeem us for a life of goodness and blessing.
Amen.
Please be seated and turn to page 60.
רצה אדוני אלוהינו בעמך ישראל ותפילתם באהבה תקבל ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל. ישראל עמך אל קרוב לכל קוראיו פני אל עבדך וחננו שפוך רוחך עלינו ותחזינה עינינו בשובך לציון. ברחמים ברוך אתה אדוני המחזיר שכינתו
We continue silently through the bottom of page 70.
יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי וגואלי אדוני צורי וגואלי May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Yehu leratzon imre fi והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי וגואלי אדוני צורי וגואלי
It feels like we are always looking everywhere these days for signs of hope. There is a place that always fills me with hope, but it's not a place you'd think to look, so let me tell you about it. When it feels like all the tsuris of right now is insurmountable, just read some Jewish history. I am not kidding. A romp through Jewish history reminds us that Jews have survived everything. After so much bad, we continue to find purpose in the transmitted practice of Judaism. Ledor vador, we are truly a generation-to-generation operation. And here we are gathering in this sanctuary and online to thank God for our first 5,783 years as a Jewish civilization. I have lived only 62 of those 5,783 years and served synagogues for 33. And in my brief stint with Judaism and the rabbinate, the only constant has been change. Only one generation later, rabbis and cantors are different. Congregations are different. Synagogue staffing is different. There were no women or out LGBTQ plus rabbis or cantors in my childhood. There were no development directors and engagement teams. Now there are more Jews of color, Black Jews, Asian Jews, Latinx Jews, Native American Jews, mixed race Jews, Jews across the gender spectrum, Jews by choice, and so many non-Jews happily associated with our synagogue and with synagogues across America. Rosh Hashanah strikes me as the perfect time to ponder the ever-evolving nature of Jewish civilization. Myself, I have been reflecting on changes in our views on intermarriage over the span of my career. And although throughout my rabbinate, I have always proclaimed that every marriage is an intermarriage, if you stop and think about it, in this case, when I speak of intermarriage, I simply mean the marriage of a Jewish person to a person who is not Jewish. I know that this topic has impacted many of you on a personal level. Some of you have felt gratitude toward a rabbi or a synagogue for their openness to perform an intermarriage. And some of you have felt terribly hurt by a rabbi or a synagogue for their lack of openness. At this season of asking forgiveness, I want to acknowledge the pain that Jewish communal decision-making has caused some of you, and I feel deeply sorry. One surprising facet of Jewish history is that intermarriage has happened in every era of Jewish peoplehood. It's in the Torah, and in fascinating research by our own Dr. Lori Pierce, we learned that our ancestors post-Torah intermarried in ancient Judea and in Babylonia. In modern times, Dr. David Myers, in his concise Jewish history that I highly recommend, it'll lift your spirits, asserts that rates of intermarriage rose throughout the 19th and early 20th century throughout Europe. I am speaking to you personally tonight. When I was ordained, some rabbis performed intermarriages, and many rabbis did not, and I was among those who did not. Like many other rabbis of my time, I believed I was ordained to bless new Jewish households with 2 Jewish partners. For this reason, I gladly married 2 Jewish women or 2 Jewish men. And I was thrilled at the large numbers of people who chose to convert to Judaism or who continued to practice their own faith but jumped in wholeheartedly to create a Jewish home. We Reform rabbis have been encouraged to cultivate our own understandings of our purpose for being rabbis and about our own discernments regarding boundaries about officiating. I know it's difficult for many congregants to understand that rabbis differ in their boundaries, but I believe that each rabbi's boundaries should be respected. I have recently joined a growing trend of Reform rabbis moving their boundaries. Why? 2 data points shifted my perspective. First, and I ask you to visualize these 2 numbers, approximately 7.5 million American Jews live amongst approximately 325 million people who are not Jewish. The odds of meeting and falling in love with someone who is not Jewish are high. Second, a Jewish population study, now over 30 years old, revealed that 52% of American Jews were intermarried at that time, 52%. When Jewish prognosticators heard that number, they swore that was the end of Judaism in the United States. Yet recent studies, including the most recent Pew, show a 35% increase in the number of people in the United States who identify as Jewish since 1990. Some of that may be due to higher birth rates in the Orthodox Jewish community. But Orthodox birth rates alone do not account for such an increase. That is to say that Judaism may be growing in spite of intermarriage, or perhaps even because of intermarriage. Statistics aside, what really compelled me to rethink my position on officiating were the growing numbers of congregants whose children had fallen in love with a non-Jewish person and they wanted a Jewish wedding and a Jewish home. And then, two of my dearest friends' Jewish children asked if I would officiate at their wedding to a non-Jewish person. And then, it was one of my own very Jewishly identified, Jewishly immersed children who is in a serious relationship with a person who is not Jewish. This has not always been easy for me. My grandma married a Jew, and her mother and grandmother before her. My mom married a Jew. I married a Jew. It has been a personal process to accept the fact that at least one of my kids may grow up creating a home with a non-Jewish partner. I wondered if I should have done something differently. But as you can imagine, our kids were steeped in Jewish identity and practice. They loved their Judaism as children, and they love it now. At first, I found it hard to tell people. I felt uneasy about what others would say. I felt that I and my child would be judged. As time has passed, and I have seen both my child's ongoing commitment to our faith and their love for their partner, I have had to overcome my struggle and get with the picture. I think that now is the time for all of us to struggle together with any unease, and here's why. People of my generation and before were taught that intermarriage would lead to the end of Judaism. If a child chose to marry someone not Jewish, it felt threatening, like a rejection of Judaism. Today, across the country, we see growing numbers of interfaith couples raising proudly Jewishly identified children. But many of us still internalize the feelings of the past. Historically, intermarriage has been considered a shanda, to be whispered about by others. I know that in my situation, I had internalized that sense of shanda, and I needed to overcome it. I came to realize that the time has come and gone for us to think that stigmatizing intermarriage does anything for Judaism's future. Some Jews who choose to marry will marry Jews, and some will not. As parents, our job is to raise our children with such a love of Judaism that they will choose to establish their own version of a Jewish home, regardless of who they marry. It's important to convey to our children that Judaism matters and we care about the future of Judaism. If a Jewish person wants a rabbi to officiate at their Jewish wedding, I now believe what Rabbi Larry Hoffman, who put it best when he said, "I look upon intermarriage as a chance to interact meaningfully with couples who are going to get married anyway, so they might as well meet me in the process." So if you are a congregant who is thinking of getting married, or you are a congregant with a child who is planning on marrying someone who is Jewish or someone who is not Jewish, encourage them to meet with any of our clergy at Emanu-El or any Reform rabbi. No one knows how to do a joyous Jewish wedding quite like a well-trained, ordained rabbi. Lastly, as a tiny minority of people, 0.2% of the world's population, we must keep our focus on a healthy, sustainable Jewish future. The Orthodox do it their way, and I respect them and I respect halakha. But their way alone will not ensure survival because of the millions of Jews who do not and will not affiliate as Orthodox. We need all streams of Judaism, especially Reform Judaism. First, because many individuals are choosing to convert or choose Judaism because they find Reform Judaism open and welcoming. Let's celebrate everyone who finds love and marries into our people. A temple leader recently commented to me, as 21st century American Jews, we know that present-day or future behavior far outweighs lineage or heritage. Let's remember that because someone does not have a Jewish background does not mean they won't have a Jewish future if they choose to. Second, studies are all showing that having a rabbi perform a Jewish wedding ceremony when one partner is not Jewish dramatically increases the likelihood that the couple will be more open to future Jewish practice. I didn't know that. And third, each of us can build the Jewish people, whether or not you are partnered or have children. Transmitting Judaism lador vador to future generations falls on all of us. The more welcoming and open all of us can be, including not whispering about non-Jews and Jews by choice, the better for the Jewish people. Another congregant recently noted that people just want to be seen, loved, and accepted for who they are. Coming for the first time to our community can be awkward and confusing. We can start by opening our arms and hearts wide. We can suspend judgment. This was a hard sermon to write, and I'm sure for many of you, for different reasons, a challenging sermon to hear. So let me end with this blessing. God of our ancestors, please hear our prayers today. We are here 5,783 years later because each in our way we care about Jewish traditions, the Jewish people, and the future of Judaism. God, let our history be a source of hope. Judaism is enduring. Fill us with humility. Help us acknowledge that none of us knows the exact practices that will keep all the different streams of Judaism vibrant 200 or 1,000 years from now. Loving God, let love win. May we say yes as often as possible. May our children know that we will always love them, even when they do things differently than we expected. God, we are indeed a lador vador operation. Strengthen our people on this new year.
vador, ledor vador, ledor vador, nagid gor lecha. ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי אל מלך גדול, כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, נגיד גור לך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. ברוך אתה אדוני, ברוך הוא אנו שמו. האל,
Please rise and turn to page 76. Avinu Malkeinu, en lanu melech ela atah.
Avinu Malkeinu, lemancha rachem aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, for your sake, show us mercy. Avinu Malkeinu, aseh imanu, leman shemecha. Avinu Malkeinu, act toward us as befits your name.
Avinu Malkeinu, shalach refuah shlema lecholei amecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, bring healing and wholeness to the ill among us. Avinu Malkeinu, kareh ro'ah gazar dinenu. Avinu Malkeinu, lay the harshness of the decree against us.
Avinu Malkeinu, kodvenu b'sefer geula v'shua. Avinu Malkeinu, scribe us
In the book of redemption and renewal. Avinu Malkeinu, zochrenu v'zichron tov lifanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, remember our goodness and call it to mind.
Avinu Malkeinu, aseh lemancha v'hoshienu.
Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake and save us. Avinu Malkeinu, shema kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, hear our voice.
Avinu Malkeinu, chatanu lefanecha.
In sin before you. Avinu Malkeinu, chamol aleinu v'al olalenu v'tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families.
Avinu Malkeinu, kale dever v'cherev v'ra'av me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu,
Halt the onslaught of sickness and violence and hunger. Avinu Malkeinu, kalei kol tsar umastin me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chotvene B'Sefer Chaim Tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the books of the lives well lived. Avinu Malkeinu, Chadesh Aleinu Shana Tova. Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu Va'anenu, Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim, Aseh Imanu Tzedakah V'Chesed V'Hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Hamol aleinu, Ve'yalol aleinu, V'tapenu.
Avinu Malkeinu,
Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Kotvenu B'Sefer Chaim Tovim. Avinu Malkeinu, Chodesh Aleinu, Chodesh Aleinu, Shana Tova.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kadosh Aleinu, Shana Tova.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu, Shema Koleinu, Shema Koleinu.
May the time not be distant, our God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when lies and bigotry shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. So may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship. Forever united in your service, then shall your realm be established on earth and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Evanenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Evanenu, Hien Panu Emasim, Aseh Emanu. Tzedakah v'chesed, Aseh Emanu-El, Tzedakah v'chesed, V'Hoshienu. Aseh Emanu, Tzedakah v'chesed, Aseh Emanu, Tzedakah v'chesed, חסד והושיענו. אבינו מלכנו, חוננו ובהננו. אבינו מלכנו, חוננו ובהננו, יהינו בנו מעשים. We remain standing on page 82 and join together in the words of Aleinu. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגיא הרצות, ולא שמנו מזבחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ.
Death will come. Its hand will not be stayed even an instant, nor can we enter into judgment with it. Our question, why, will go unanswered. But this does not mean that we are helpless in the face of death. We can and we do rob death of ultimate victory by living life as long as it is ours to live. To ask of death that it never come is futile. But it's not futility to pray that even when death comes for us, it may take us from a world, one corner of which is a little better because we were there. When we're dead and people weep for us and grieve, let it be because we touch their lives with beauty and simplicity. Let it not be said that life was good to us, but rather that we were good to life. If you are remembering someone who passed away in the last week, in the last 30 days, in the last year, or this is the yahrzeit of your loved one's passing, if you will please share their name when my hand passes over you. We're on page 90. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbi, v'yamad yivrach rotei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agalau v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mavarach le'olam omei omaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudashah bricho. Eila v'yalkata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nachamata. Damiran v'yama v'imra amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imra amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen.
Just a few announcements before we end services this evening. Please leave your prayer books at your seat. We will be using them throughout Rosh Hashanah, which continues tomorrow morning. We hope you will join us. We will have services here at 10 a.m., and we will also have children's services at Presidio Wall Playground just down the street, also at 10 in the morning. Tashlich, as always, is at 5:30 p.m. at Baker Beach. This year, in cooperation with the National Park Service, parking will be in the lots down the hill. Parking in the lots down the hill are reserved for people with disabilities, so please park up on the top or find alternative transportation. This year, we are participating in a reverse tashlich, which means we will be using pebbles or shells to throw into the water, and we are asking everyone to bring bags to help leave the beach cleaner than we have found it by picking up trash. We will continue with the Kiddush on page 79.
Baruch atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo
Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol am ורוממנו מכל לשון וקידשנו במצוותיו ותיתן לנו אלוהינו באהבה את יום הזיכרון הזה יום תרועה מקרא קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים קיוונו ואנו אחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים ודברך אמת וכיום לעד ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo
מלך על כל הארץ מקדש ישראל 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 ויום הזיכרון ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
We conclude our service with the singing of Adon Olam on page 94.
Adon Olam asher malach v'terem kol nivra li'et nasa v'chetzo kol hazar melech shemo nikra ve'acharei yichlo et hakol levado imloch nora והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם
אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי תקלו את הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא עובד, והוא יהיה בתפארה.
So you may notice on your way out that this year there are these orange cards that are on the outside on the tables. With Rosh Hashanah, we kick off the 10 days of intention setting and of repentance. And this year, we as a community want to concretely build the 5783 that we want to see. On these cards, there are reflection statements for things that you personally want to do, achieve, create this year. I invite you on your way out of services tonight, grab a card or 2 or 3, and please concretely write your intention to share with our community. All of our intentions for 5783 will surround us as we return for Kol Nidre services next week. Some of the things you can imagine are:
by this time next year, I will complete X.
By this time next year, I will share.
By this time next year, I will stand up for.
By this time next year, I will create. And since I have the microphone in my hand, you should know me better than that. I don't want to forget some very important people. I want you to turn around and look at the cameras and just wave to every single person right now who's in their living room, in their kitchen, maybe a hospital room. Wherever you are so with us. We wish you were here. We know that you wish you were here. And so we just want to say Shana Tova before we end tonight's service to all of you.
And we also want to think of those who could use help because it's such a hard time and they're hungry. And so when you come back for Yom Kippur or even during Rosh Hashanah, if you can bring a bag of food for the JFCS food bank, for the general food banks as well, they look forward to our contribution at this time of year.
L'Shana Tova, have a year of change. Have a good year. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.